You're gonna have the most amazing contour skills after watching this video. I hear all the time, I'm scared to contour, or I do and it looks muddy, it's patchy, my skin looks red, I feel like it's blending away. Girl, I got you. We are going to address all of those things, give you simple tweaks so that you can have confidence in your contour application, and it can be something that you are using in your routine every single day because it's fast and looks amazing. Welcome back to my channel, guys. My name is Sammy George. I'm an independent makeup artist with Seint Beauty, and I love teaching natural looking makeup to women just like me who have imperfect skin but still want to love their makeup and they want it to work and be effective, right? So if you want to learn more about some contour basics as well as troubleshooting and how to get the most out of your contour application, be sure to stick around and watch today's video. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a thing, and thanks for being here. I could talk contour all day because now that I know how to do it, 3 years ago when I became a Seint customer, I did not know how to contour, and I spent many months ignoring that part of the 3D foundation. But now that I know how to do it and it's actually really simple and gives a beautiful, like, complete look to the makeup, I almost never skip it. So let me take the contour confusion out of things. On this side of my face, I'm gonna do kind of the viral, what you see on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, contour application. On this side, we're gonna talk troubleshooting a little bit and some quick tips and the right brush. It's the tools that make such a huge difference. So let's get started over here. A lot of times what you see is that somebody will grab the 3D brush, the large end, and they will work it into their contour, and they're gonna start around the top of the forehead. Because remember, the purpose of contour is to create dimension. 3D foundation plays the game of light and dark. If there's darkness on it, it's gonna recede. It's going to pull back and make things look slimmer, smaller, more sculpted. It truly is like a really great addition to your makeup routine, especially as we have aging skin. So the contour is awesome. The application is what tends to confuse people. So we go around the perimeter, and oftentimes what you're gonna see is people pulling back and forth like this, and they say do it in a 3. So here, cheekbone, and underneath. So they pull it down, then they start here, and we do this sweeping back and forth. And then underneath the jawline. And that is contour. From there, they're gonna take their main foundation shade and fill in the gaps. So anywhere that you did not put your contour, you're gonna add your main foundation. Flip it over and you will see them grab some brightener, and we'll do a little something like this, blend it together. And now the common things that happen with a contour line like this. Let me move in a little closer. So it looks red, it looks patchy, it looks kind of dirty, and I don't have good coverage. Those are the common things that happen with this application style. So what happened is, a lot of times you're swiping back and forth. Go to your top of your cheekbone and you start swiping back and forth. First of all, if you have redness underneath this portion of your face, like I do, when you do not color correct first, this ashy color instantly looks red because my red is pulling through. Then when you swipe back and forth, see how it starts to collect at the top of the ear and the bottom of the ear, because you're pushing it to the top and then you're pushing it to the bottom. So now it looks patchy. So this middle area has the least, the top and then the bottom has the most. And we do not want our contour to have the majority of product down here. It's going to drag the face down and it's gonna make it look muddy. You see how this looks muddy here? So then people start working to blend it out. And when they blend it out, they essentially almost blend it away. But now it's just kind of a muddy mess and it looks patchier than it did before. I have like this gap here. My acne scarring just kind of looks a hot mess. And I brought my contour all all the way down here into this mature skin no-no area. So we have the common issues that I hear all the time: redness, patchy, muddy, and it doesn't last. Let me show you on the other side how we can use the right tool, the right application method, and we can fix it. Here's the other no-no that I see all the time. People put their contour on, and then when they're trying to blend it out, they're actually flicking it down. You don't realize that you're doing it. You're just kind of blending it, but now it's dragging the face further down. And you're like, man, my cheekbones were supposed to look lifted, and now it looks muddy and dirty and not lifted at all. Simple, simple tweaks. And here's the thing, don't panic. Cream makeup doesn't dry down. You can work with it. I'll even show you some fixes before we're done today. As we move to this side of the face, I'm getting rid of the 3D brush. I just did a video on it if you want to check it out. It's not a beginner-friendly brush. I did teach you the best ways to use it, so if you have the 3D brush, definitely go check that out. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the detail brush and the blush and bronzer brush. These are the two brushes that I recommend that every beginner start with, because they are 4 ends that do all the things. So starting with this side of the face, what do we need to do first? We need to mitigate the redness that's in this area. So if you are somebody who does not have redness or discoloration in this area, you don't have to worry about this. But for those of us that do, if we want our contour to show true to the tone in the tin and not pull red, we need to take care of the redness on our face first, the deepest and darkest points on our skin. And I'm gonna do that, as I always do, by starting with color correction. So I'm using the small end of the detail brush, which is the absolute best brush to contour with, but I also love it because then it affords me one small end to do these areas that are around the eye, close to the nose, anywhere else that you want to get a small brush into. This is why I love this brush, because both ends are incredibly user-friendly. Like, you're gonna use both ends of this brush probably every day. So nothing about it is gonna go to waste. So right now I'm just color correcting that redness. Anywhere that I see red, anywhere I see hyperpigmentation, acne spots, I'm getting this color corrector, which I will match you to a color corrector. All of your shades come custom matched. That's the beauty of this makeup, is I will do all of this part for you. But I'm telling you, it's going to make a huge difference in your contour application if you take care of the redness and the discoloration on your skin first. And really, it can be that simple. You can even go to the small end of the blush and bronzer brush and just do these small circles if you have an area of larger redness. And then we're moving on to our main shade. We're gonna get good coverage. We're gonna reduce that redness, and then I'm gonna show you how to contour on top of it. Step 2, now that we have our color corrected, let's build up in thin layers that coverage. This is our main highlight shade. So I match almost all of my clients to 3 highlights: a color correcting highlight, a main highlight, and a brightening highlight. Your main highlight's what you're used to calling foundation. Your brightening highlight is what you are used to calling concealer. Going in between the eyes. Now remember, one of the cool things about contour is it gives coverage. So if you do not have redness in your cheek area, you don't need to put your main foundation shade there. You actually can start with contour like I did over here. But that's only if you don't have redness in that area, because your contour will give you coverage. Same thing on the forehead. I don't have any color concerns on my forehead, so I'm not going to color correct on my forehead. I'm just putting a little bit of my foundation shade in the middle where I'm not gonna contour, and that's how I'm gonna get coverage on my forehead in that area. Small end of the detail brush around the eye. Anywhere that you put your color corrector, you are going to put your main foundation shade. It is the combination of your color corrector and this main foundation shade that give you lasting coverage and that matches your neck, your chest, whatever it is that you tell me that you want to match. So now that I have put my color corrector on, and I did so in a sweeping, like a swirl motion to really buff it onto the skin. But now that I put that color corrector down, every color on top is pressed or stippled. I'm no longer swirling because I put my color corrector strategically where I wanted it, and I don't want to move that. A couple of things that you really may not have considered when it comes to contour and having contour troubles. Do you see how this tin here is pretty, I don't even want to call it full, but the product is evenly distributed pretty well? Check this one out. So this is the contour that I've been using. And obviously, it's very well loved. There is a lot of product still left in that tin. However, when I go to put my contour on my brush, one of the reasons that I swapped out to a different one is because you want your contour to be evenly dispersed onto your brush. And how hard is it to evenly distribute that when you have a giant hole in the middle? What ends up happening is that it looks patchy on the brush. And the reason that you want it evenly distributed is because you don't want it to appear patchy on the skin, and we don't want to have to over blend it if, when we do put it on, there's more product on one area of the brush than another, and then that forces us to blend a lot. So go ahead and take a tin like this, put it on a candle warmer, on the stove where the stove top is just warm. Let this start to melt. Take a toothpick in there, get rid of any debris, dust, anything that may have accumulated in there, and it's going to flatten itself back out. Let it dry, and then you are good to go. But tip number one is work from a contour tin that allows you to evenly distribute the product on the brush, and you're kind of like preventative measures here just to get started with a clean brush and an even distribution will make a big difference. Which brings me to point two. When your contour starts to look wonky, clean your brush. And it should probably be like a deep clean. At this point, this brush needs to be deep cleaned. But do you see how I have contour in all different areas of the brush? It's very difficult with something like contour to get a clean distribution when, again, I have chunks all throughout different parts of the brush. So one, that was my brush cleaner. Seint's brush cleaner is amazing. We're actually gonna be able to use this brush shortly after we clean it here. You want to clean it with a brush cleaner like that spray, once a week, just for sanitary purposes, if not even for application purposes. But then you want to deep clean once a month. And that is probably what my brushes are due for, is a deep clean, but this right here is going to make a huge difference. So we're already gonna be starting with a much cleaner brush. So I'm not gonna have to worry about getting chunks onto the face because now I've cleaned this brush up and my product distribution is gonna be so much better to begin with. Tip number three, and you may not have even thought of this one, make sure you are exfoliating your skin. When our skin is dry and patchy, this makeup is going to sit on your skin, always. It does not penetrate the skin. Anybody that you hear say it penetrates the skin is not accurately describing how the makeup works. The makeup sits on the skin. You don't want it penetrating your skin. It's molecularly too large. So what that means is, if it sits on the skin and your skin is dry and patchy and it flakes off throughout the day, now you're gonna notice it looks like your makeup is dry and patchy. And it's harder to notice in areas where it's skin toned. It's easier to notice in areas where you have this shadowing because it's a little bit less of a natural color. So if you're flaking off in this area due to dry, patchy skin, that is just going to make it more challenging than you probably realize to get your contour to last all day because it's literally flaking off in chunks. So go ahead and exfoliate. I will put my favorite exfoliator. It's a gentle exfoliator. It's off of Amazon down in the description box below. You are welcome to go pick it up. You want to do it like every third or fourth day. You will notice overall a much smoother makeup application. And while we're talking about smooth makeup applications, dermaplaning your face and removing that excess peach fuzz is always going to help, but at minimum, I would exfoliate. Let's talk contour color and why it actually does matter what contour you are color matched to. So here are just a few of them, and I'm literally only pulling out a couple to give you some different examples here, but you're gonna notice some of these are really warm, which means they appear to be, these guys right here, more red-based. Some of them are more cool, which means they are more gray-based. And if you are somebody that has redness in your cheekbone area, you want to stay away from a contour that has a red base. So this one right here is Stone, and let me show you. It is very light, but it is also very warm. It almost looks more like Tan Line's bronzer than a lot of our other cooler contours. And there's a place for warm contours, absolutely, but not for somebody that has redness in their cheeks. So if you're somebody that has redness in your cheeks, you are most likely going to appreciate something like ash. Do you see the difference between something like Stone and something like ash? One is warm. It's going to pull your skin more red just by the nature of what it is. and one is cooler, it's going to allow things to be a little more shadowed. It's a little more gray based, so it's not gonna pull that red, especially if you take the time to color correct. If you don't color correct underneath this and you put something warm like this over top, it's going to immediately look orange. Now this one is olive, and olive's gonna fall like somewhere in the middle. Olive's it's a really popular shade, and it is definitely kind of a combo one. So I don't recommend it for people with redness in their skin, but the average person that likes a little bit of warmth to their contour, that doesn't have redness in their cheeks, something like olive also falls like right in the middle when it comes to depth. This is a very popular one for that reason, but you'll see naturally it's in between these two shades right here. If you have darker skin, so if your main highlight shade is something like sandy or darker, so like right now, my main highlight shade is Athens. As we head into summer, I'm probably gonna end up being like sandy or hazel. I'm gonna change my contour accordingly. So right now, I am ash. I have redness in my skin. My main highlight shade is Athens. So anybody who has like candlelit Athens, you're gonna be living in the ash family. As your skin gets darker, or if you have a darker skin tone, that's when I'm gonna go one up. So it's going to be a little bit darker, but it's still cool. And this is Astoria. Astoria, I can wear all year long if I want a more defined contour when I'm wearing candlelit or Athens, but I will switch to this as soon as I get to sandy. So it's like the big sister of ash. Ash is cool. Astoria is cool. Where stone is going to be warmer. Olive's gonna fall somewhere in the middle, but it still has some of that warmth to it. And then I'm gonna show you warmest, the darkest, and the most challenging application of a contour is indigo. So if you have a lot of redness in your skin, indigo is probably not going to be your best friend. It is, however, quite dark, and people who love a dramatic contour do really like indigo. But for some reason, I honestly couldn't tell you what it is. The formulation of this one makes it a more challenging application. I literally don't know what it is, because typically if someone tells me that their contour is patchy, to me, I'm gonna check on a couple things. One, is their tin surface like flat, getting even distribution on the brush? Are they using the correct stippling motion versus this swiping up and down? Have they color corrected? And if they've done all those things, we're probably gonna add some warmth to their contour. It's probably too cool. However, with this being the warmest of all of the contours, it's crazy to me that it is the most difficult of all the applications. Now, it's a beautiful, beautiful shade. I absolutely love it actually as a lip liner with darker like red. And I like to put it up here if I want to kind of ombre my contour a little bit. But for people that have like discoloration in this area right here, or if you're like me and you have some of this like acne scarring and stuff that hits kind of that point where your contour is supposed to start, are supposed to stop, I should say, I would stay away from indigo contour just because there's warmth there and it's a tough and sometimes patchy application. Have you ever experienced that if you're somebody who's using indigo, that it pulls you either really red, it ends up patchy, it's a little bit tougher than some of the other contour shades? Let me know in the comments below, because that seems to be the common nemesis of indigo. I do have one more that I'm gonna show you because I think it's important to know. This one right here is Shadow. Shadow is super gray based because it was actually created exclusively to be a nose contour. It was not created to be a face contour. Do you see how gray that is? A color this gray on the skin will oftentimes make people look dead. However, noses are often the most warm and red part of our face, right? Like when you get sunburned, do you always get sunburn on your nose first? Because it sticks out the farthest. So in order to combat that, Shadow was created to be like the perfect nose contour. So if you've been trying to contour your nose and everything you put on your nose looks too red, I found you your fix. It is Shadow. And you can see just from this swatch on the arm, this is indigo. This is Astoria, which is cool. Look how much cooler this is than even Astoria. and it has that gray undertone, which is gonna make it perfect for nose contouring, but really not ideal for contouring the cheekbones and the forehead and things like that on the face. All right, let's get to the contour part. I took Ash out of that palette, put it back in here. We are ready to rock and roll. Let's keep this super simple. I want you to take your detail brush and hold it on an angle. You're going to pounce. That's why my middle ends up going faster than any part else, but you're gonna pounce in with a little bit more pressure on the side. And now look, we've created contour on half the brush, so it's like having a knife edge application for the brush, and it makes a huge difference. Contour is drier than any of your other highlights, so it will take a little bit more pressure, which is why you wanna pounce. You do it on that angle so that you only get contour on half the brush, because we're gonna use this side to blend. Now watch, instead of swiping this across the face, we're gonna place it strategically so that it lifts the face and doesn't drag it down. We don't have to overblend and it won't look muddy. So we start at the top of the ear. We're going to end at the outer corner of the eye. So we're gonna connect from here to the outer corner of the eye, and we're going to use our cheekbone to do so. So you'll feel your cheekbone starts to roll down here. Okay. Essentially, we're doing top of the ear, outer corner of the mouth, and we're going to the outside. See where this starts to roll here? That is where your contour is gonna go. So if you need help finding it, grab a straight edge like that. Now, first things first, you want to tap where you want to distribute the most product, and that's at the back. So I'm using that edge and I'm tapping it, and now I'm following my cheekbone to the outer corner of my eye, and I'm stopping. That's it. Ready? Now we're gonna blend. So we're just pressing and tapping with pressure. It's diffusing it. Look how lovely. And now these bristles on the top, we flick up. And because they don't have any product on them, that's what helps blend and diffuse that into just this very natural looking, easy to apply contour line, but it still gives us the look of a lifted face versus this drug down here. You can see the difference when I look forward. This side is lifted, this side comes down right here. And that's it. That is cheekbone application. Time for the forehead. This time I'm gonna take the full surface area of the brush, press in, get my application, get my product on, and now we're going to apply. I'm going to do that same tapping motion along the perimeter of my hair, but I'm gonna stop here. Darkness recedes, light comes forward. That is the beauty of 3D foundation, is that it creates this very natural looking dimension. Darkness pulls back. So the cheekbones pull back, the forehead pulls back. This area right here on a mature face is already starting to sink in, so we don't want it to pull back. As a matter of fact, we kind of want it to pop out. So end your application before you get to your cheekbone. And now I'm pressing along the hairline. I don't want to overblend. And I'm just simply stippling, because if you remember, if I had color corrector under there, which I don't, but you might, and my main foundation shade, I don't want to move it, right? So for me, I only have my main foundation shade here because I have no discoloration and my contour is a coverage product. But just for the sake of learning, I'm just stippling, and now you can press up into that hairline. So if you're like me and you have a little bit of a receding hairline, this will actually help cover that. And now I don't want to overblend it. So all I'm gonna do, I don't want this harsh line here either, right? So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tap on that a little bit, just diffuse it out a little bit. And that is how simple your forehead contour can be. You're not swiping all the way down into this hollowed area here. Just go ahead and start, press, flick up into the hairline, tap that end, and now you'll notice the brightness has started to be created in the center of the face, the darkness on the perimeter. So we've done forehead, we've done cheekbone. Let's move on to the jawline, which is super simple, okay? Tap that brush in, start at the back of the ear, and I am behind my actual jawline. So you don't want to come on the jawline. Go ahead and go behind the jawline and underneath. I don't have any other product here, so I'm swiping the brush from the top to the bottom, and now I want to pull down to make sure I don't have any crazy lines. See this divot here in your neck? You can add a little bit of contour there and pull back. Before we move on to nose contour, I'm actually going to take what's left on the brush and just kind of apply this underneath the center of the lip Remember, if dark recedes, that means the bottom of the lip is going to pull back and my lips will look just a little bit larger. Some people like a more drastic contour under the lip. I just like something really subtle, but yet still helpful to a larger looking pout. I'm gonna show you shadow for our nose contour. So the simplest way to nose contour, and then I'll show you how you can even clean it up if you prefer a brush, is to put a little bit on the middle finger, tap, tap, tap. Press your middle fingers together, so now it's distributed, and start right in between your eyes and just pull down the center of the nose. We're gonna create 2 nose contour lines that are close together, that are parallel on the actual bridge of the nose, not on the side. And then I'm just gonna kind of use what's left on my finger to flick that up into my eyebrow a little bit. We'll use a beauty blender here to make sure we don't have any harsh lines. And then I'm gonna go underneath the tip of the nose. This is going to make that recede and look smaller. And then we'll add some brightener to the middle. But these 2 contour lines are what give you that slimming effect. And this is shadow. So it is more gray to begin with. So it's not gonna pull my nose red. And my nose is a spot that has a lot of redness, especially because I have a scar right on the top of my nose. If you prefer to use a brush, you can either use, while I'm thinking about it, the side of the detail brush and just kind of stamp it on. Sometimes I get nervous to use a brush that large. You could always take something like the smudge brush and put the tiniest amount on, clean end of course, this side has eyeshadow on it, and follow that same concept down the center of the nose, down the top of the nose, putting parallel lines close together and then flicking up into those eyebrows. Just leaving a teeny strip in the middle for our brightener. I'm going back to the detail brush. We're gonna make this fast, but I do want you to see the rest of the 3D application because part of this is really important when you're talking contour, especially a nose contour. You do wanna put some brightener down the sides of the nose because your nose contour is both the darkness of the contour lines and the light of your brightener. So go ahead and hug those contour lines on the outside. Put a little bit down the middle. You can use your finger, you can use a brush, and then we're gonna blend all of this together. Now, traditional brightening areas, T-zone, down the center of the nose, top of the lip, bottom of the chin. We already did the sides of the nose for the purposes of our contour, and now a little bit of brightener on the inner corner and the outer corner. And let's marry that together. And outer corner, inner corner. So let's grab our perfector. We'll blend in all these lines and remove any excess. If you are nervous about anything in 3D foundation, do not skip the perfector. It is literally the tool that makes this 100% user-friendly for anybody. All creams are blendable, and this right here is gonna help you remove any excess if you're too heavy-handed. It's going to help you, like let's say you're really nervous about that nose contour, okay? If I were to continue to tap this beauty blender on over and over again, I could essentially tap away my nose contour lines. Like, this is your fail-safe. There is no mistakes with cream makeup because it doesn't dry down. You can continue to blend it, and with something like a beauty blender that's gonna marry all of this together and remove any excess product, like you're gonna be good to go. So this right here is just my standard everyday natural but clean contour application. This right here, we don't have as good of coverage. This is almost like completely diffused at this point. It did congregate into this area here, and it's gonna drag the face down a little bit. But let me show you. Like I said, when I say there are no mistakes, watch this. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up. I'm gonna go to the correct brush, the detail brush. But first, as I get ahead of myself, let's pounce this a little bit. Let's diffuse that out even more, okay? Basically, let's get rid of it. Let's go ahead and cover some of this redness This is my color corrector. Now let's get coverage. This is my main highlight shade. Tap on an angle. Top of the ear, cheekbone, outer corner of the eye, flicking up. Now, how do we get rid of this right here? Flip your brush over. Watch this. We can clean this up with our main highlight shade. That's it. Like, we just fixed that entire hot mess of a contour situation by blending, adding some color corrector, and tapping in the same application method, and then using this small end right here to clean it up. You got too low onto this area of your face here where you don't want it to recede, just add a little bit of brightener. Grab your beauty blender, make sure it's all married together, and voila. It's literally that easy to fix. Okay, let me know. Was this helpful? Was seeing how some of these colors truly are going to look more red on the face beneficial? Does that help explain maybe why your color is pulling red? Are you using a color corrector? Are you making sure your product is evenly distributed in the tin? So many things that we don't think about, but like when you make these little tweaks, you can take your makeup to like a really comfortable place where contour no longer is intimidating, but is actually like a part of your routine that you don't want to skip. If you need a color match for your customized foundation shades, if you need me to take a look and see if maybe there is a better contour for you, or you need a color corrector, color match is in the description box below. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.